Okay then, well, thanks for coming this afternoon. We've got some missing members today, obviously. This is the diploma course subject, the 7 planes. You will notice again that we go over some of the same old ground because all these subjects do converge and overlap each other. So you get the same terms again, looked at from a different angle, hopefully, and that should help you to understand things clearer. In one respect, this subject, the 7 planes, is very straightforward. It's straightforward because, looking at it from a sort of mechanical point of view, each of the planes reflects the same pattern. Therefore, you only really have to understand one plane to be able to transpose that into the others. The difference being one of what we could call frequency, or weight of substance. And they're all built on the same archetypal spiritual template. And this again is what we're always saying, isn't it? That everything starts on the spiritual plane. Everything has its roots in the spiritual plane. There's old diagrams from some time in the past. We were talking before, weren't we, about some of these older philosophers you can study. And centuries ago, the esotericists came up with a diagram of the tree of life, which, similar to the Kabbalah, but this has its actual tree with its roots in the air and its branches in the ground. And that was to show that everything originates in the spiritual, not from the ground up.
Right. Okay, yeah.
And this, of course, is where science is stuck. It's disadvantaged, I should say, really. I'm not knocking science because they're doing it. You know, they really are pushing the boundaries back on what we know in the physical world.
They're catching up.
They're catching up. But you see, the disadvantage is that they look at everything from the ground up. So they believe everything is evolved from bits of ground, as it were, from the atom, and is evolved to become what it is from that point. Now, Theosophy doesn't disagree with that, but it makes its starting point a long way before that in the spiritual realm. So by the time this process of creation reaches the physical plane, it's already done half its job in the unseen levels.
Wow.
And that's why the physical plane holds together so well, because it's actually backed up. It's like the tip of an iceberg, really. It's backed up in all this stuff that's gone on before, and it's these archetypal patterns and templates which everything is built upon. And so the planes can be seen from this mechanical point of view, and from that point of view it's quite easy to study. However, if we care to look a little bit deeper than the mechanical view, and take a less objective view of it all, then we see some very interesting features. And these will lead us into some fascinating and esoteric areas of thought. And that's what we're going to do, hopefully today, some of those. So, to start with, let's put a few things straight. The planes of existence, of course, we're referring to is the physical, the etheric, the astral, the mental, the buddhic, the atmic, the monadic, the logoic, and so on. When we think of them, and when we see them in books and in diagrams, they're always laid out in a layer cake fashion, with the physical at the bottom and the spiritual at the top, and everyone layered in between. Because this is a convenience. It allows our linear thinking mind to compare one thing with another. But it can't be real. We mustn't accept that as the reality. If we did so, what we'd be saying is, this is the physical plane, including the sky, and then above that is the etheric plane, and above that is the astral plane, and out in space there somewhere is the mental plane, and then above that even sub it. That's not true. Where do we think then all these inner planes are in location?
They're intertwined, aren't they?
They're operating within us.
Yes.
No?
Again, I would say it would be frequency again.
So where are they physically, as it were? in location.
In location.
They're not up there, they're not down
No,
there.
I would say it's circular, like an aura, you know, like an aura around. Do you know what I mean?
They're like the layers of an onion now. It's a different layer cake, that's it.
But yeah, but like all encompassing, as Beryl said, and the access is again whatever frequency and maybe other things going on where you can access it.
But you're quite right. But let's put it dead simply. They're all here.
Yes. Yeah.
They're not somewhere else, are they?
No.
The reason why we don't see the astral plane is because we're so busy looking at the physical plane.
Yes.
We're using 5 senses which are tuned very tightly and very solidly to the physical vibration spectrum. So when I look at you, I see your physical body. I don't see your astral body. I don't see your mental body or your spiritual self. Unless I'm in a heightened state of awareness, then I would, wouldn't I?
Yes.
Or if I was psychic, then I would.
Yeah, I see them.
Yeah, you see
I
them,
see the
Beryl.
auras.
Yeah.
Spooky, Beryl, spooky. No, but this is a fact, because what Beryl and I would be doing in that situation would be tuning in to another wavelength.
Yes.
In the same way that we can say, when you put your television on, the picture you're seeing is a certain frequency of the whole range of TV stations being broadcast. They're all coming into your TV set through your dish or your aerial. You're just tuning them in on your controller.
Yeah.
So you're tuning at a different level when you see, people's aura or on the psychic level itself. If you were seeing someone's spiritual self, you'd be tuning at a very high level. But they're all here. I mean, we could get really, very real about this and say that in this room now, the chances are there are other entities,
Yes. Yes.
but we're not seeing them.
Yeah.
They would walk through our physical body. And unless we're in a sensitive mood, we would not feel it. But sometimes we feel a shiver.
Yes.
Then we say, oh, someone just walked on my grave. No, someone just walked through you. Maybe. When I was a child, during the Second World War, towards the end of the Second World War, there was ghosts, let's call them, for convenience sake, walking down room to room through the terraced houses in our street, because people were being killed in France and places, in the battles. And the first thing they did in spirit was come straight back to their homes.
Yes.
And some of them were seen.
Yes.
And then there was mediums that were helping people to contact them, so they could give a message and say, I'm all right. I may be dead, but I'm all right. I'm in a beautiful place. And then the mothers and the sisters and brothers could feel, some kind of closure and feel that everything was all right. It wasn't such a dreadful thing. They would feel the loss, but they would know that their loved one was still all right. So this is the first thing we have to sort of come to grips with. The planes are not in a layer cake. They're not one above the other. They intermingle completely because they're all at different frequencies. They're in the same space. The space we call the Earth is the planes that we are concerned with as Earth beings. The astral plane surrounds the Earth that we are concerned with, but it also permeates the entire cosmos.
Okay.
There's an astral field all the way through the cosmos, just as a physical field through the cosmos. There's an etheric field right through the cosmos and a mental field right through the cosmos. We're concerned with our little area of activity, which is the aura of the Earth Mother. Right? Yeah.
So you actually feel it is on such a grand scale as right through the cosmos.
Oh, absolutely.
Rather than a spiritual containment, yeah?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. An easy way to see it is like saying, if the cosmos was a pool of water, and the Earth was a cup, and it was in the pool of water, right?
Yeah.
So the atmosphere, the spiritual aura of the Earth herself is within the spiritual aura of the cosmos itself.
Right.
It's not separate to it. And here, as we said, I think last time, I'm not sure, when we talked about 7 bodies, our bodies are not separate to the body of the Earth. This is the physical Earth. It's not something else, is it?
No,
It's all come from the earth. When we're dead, it'll all go back to the earth,
that's right.
right? Our etheric body is also made up of the etheric body of the earth. It's borrowed from that, it's moulded within it. Our astral body, our feelings, our emotions are also moulded within the astral body of the earth. But that body of the earth, the astral body of the earth, is moulded within the astral body of the solar system, of the galaxy, and of the cosmos. And so we come to another famous axiom, as above, so below. And that's what it means. It means if it's true here, it's true there. If it's true there, it's true here. And this is how we come to understand esotericism, not by learning all the details, but by seeing, realizing that kind of statement, not just as a statement, but as a fact. It is as above, so below, and so as below, so above, as within, so without. That's the key to it. So, now H.P. Blavatsky, who you might know, formed this society in 1875, along with Hugh Judge and Colonel Alcott. She made some amazing statements, especially she wrote The Secret Doctrine, Axis Unveiled, and so on. But some of her statements stand alone and have been passed around for the last century as standing in their own light as being quite incredible statements. There's so many of them. Now I've chosen one here that pertains to what we're talking about today. And that is, she said, a plane is that which is objective to consciousness. Now this is what I meant when I said if we look a bit deeper beyond the mechanisms, we get some fascinating philosophic esoterical ideas here. A plane is that which is objective to consciousness.
In what sense is she... That's quite...
But, you know, we look at it now from different angles.
Yeah.
Right? You could say she was saying, if it's not real to you, it doesn't exist. She's saying, what is real to you is what exists to you. So that when you go to sleep, your consciousness is no longer at the physical level, it doesn't exist to you. But that's still very simplistic. Let's take it a bit further.
Because again, sorry to interrupt, there's like, I would have, you know, like obviously I am so happy I'm here, I've been looking for this for the last couple of years, but I would have always thought that consciousness would have been subjective rather than objective. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But obviously...
No, you're quite right, you see, because this is the difference, you see. With consciousness, there is subjective and there's objective. Now, if I say to you, imagine an orange, you're doing that with your subjective consciousness. It's not in the room, is it? It's not here to your senses.
No.
Yet it exists subjectively on its own plane. But it's not real to you, because it's not objective to you. It's just a thought. If I show you an orange, it's real because it's objective to your senses, isn't it? Now, this question is a very interesting one. Have you heard of Schrodinger's cat?
Yes, I have, yeah.
That's the same, it's the same question. It's the same idea. What Schrodinger was saying was, if no one opens the box, you do not know whether the cat's alive or dead. And if you open the box, because your consciousness is aware of it, you're interfering with it. Because your consciousness affects the matter around you. The quantum scientists realized that they can't experiment independently at the quantum level because their own mind is interfering with the quantum level.
And even the quantum mechanics behave like they're being observed, yeah?
Yes, that's right. And we can't tell how they would behave if they're not being observed.
Yeah.
Because we can't observe them.
Yeah.
And that's the quiz of Schrödinger's cat, which no scientist yet has come up with a satisfactory answer to. But, you know, this is fascinating stuff, really, because we can pose a similar question. If there was no one here to witness the Earth, would it still exist? Well, your logical mind says, of course it exists. We live on it. And when we're gone, when I die, it's going to be here. But she says it's only a plane because it's objective to consciousness. The whole physical plane is the whole cosmos.
Wow.
So how do we get around that one then? If we were to remove all the human beings from the cosmos, would the cosmos still exist then? But it wouldn't be objective to anybody's consciousness, would it? But
Well, that's
the
fascinating.
question that this question gives rise to is, whose consciousness? Whose consciousness? Now, in another statement, somewhere else, she says, everything is conscious.
Yeah.
And she means every atom is conscious on its own level, in its own terms. It's not conscious like you and me, because our consciousness is so large now and filled with so much experience and diversity and thousands of lifetimes and evolution. But an atom is still conscious, but in its own little miniature terms. And if you think of the Earth, and you think of the Earth as being a conscious being, in terms of the cosmos, the Earth is like an atom, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like actually like a part of an atom circling around the nucleus, which is the sun. As above, so below. Therefore, everything is conscious. Everything is alive. And if it's alive, it's conscious. There's nothing dead in the universe. So if we were to be removed, the universe would still exist because it's full of living things.
That's
There would be a collective
Yes.
consciousness.
Yes, there is a collective consciousness
Yeah.
holding it together.
Yeah.
Now she says in another place, the whole cosmos, this is a longer quote, so you'll have to forgive my stumbling through it, but the whole cosmos is created, controlled, guided and maintained by an endless series of hierarchies of beings, of divine beings, every one with its own purpose and its own intelligence. She's talking about the whole range of deific entities,
Wow.
of angelic
Would
beings.
you say that again? I should have brought pen and paper really, but
You'll get recorded. It's going on YouTube.
Okay, great. You said they're maintained. The things that she says again. Sorry,
The whole
guided,
cosmos is created, maintained, guided, and everything else
yeah.
by an endless series of hierarchies of
Wow.
of sentient beings.
Excuse me.
I know, it's quite incredible, isn't it? But if you look at the Elohim,
Yeah.
you look at all the Kabbalistic hierarchies, that's what
Yeah.
she's talking about, just different names.
Yes.
Christians call them angels, Kabbalists call them Elohim,
Yeah.
in Sanskrit they're called Mahachoans,
Jinn.
so on and so on and so on, yeah. There's about, 3,000 different names for these beings. And they unfold at the beginning of creation, and they unfold one from within the others.
Would you say they're similar to what John Dee and Kelly would call the Grimoires, or those type of beings?
Yeah,
they are.
that's an area of them, yeah.
An area, sorry,
Yeah,
okay.
because she says there's an endless hierarchy of them.
Right, okay, yeah.
See, here again we're going to some deeper stuff here, because when she uses the term endless, she means entirely that, endless.
Wow.
She doesn't mean so many billion, she means endless. In the same way that you can't measure the cosmos. It's endless.
Absolutely.
Infinity doesn't have a finishing point,
No.
it goes on.
And it isn't even about human comprehension, it
No.
just is simply endless.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And in fact, our consciousness is potentially endless also, And we're in the process of developing that. But we've only got reached this limited point so far. Therefore, things like endless and infinity, we still can't quite encompass in our consciousness. But we have the capacity latent within us to encompass all of that with our consciousness.
Wow. Now that's
And she says
powerful.
that quite clearly, yeah. So where does that take us then? That takes us to the fact that this is something, when you think of the planes of existence, astral, mental, spiritual, physical, etheric, whatever, don't think of a load of stuff. Think of a living thing. The astral plane is a living thing. Because you wouldn't deny that the physical plane is a living thing, would you?
No.
Then as above, so below, as below, so above. All the billions upon billions of organisms that make up the physical plane, they're duplicated, but they're actually only copies of what is on the etheric plane, which are copies of what is on the astral plane. Right. So the planes are not places, they're not piles of stuff like sand in different layers. They're living organisms. And the living material of those planes is medium for consciousness, because it is living consciousness. So that every layer of conscious entity evolving through this system can find a place in which to focus its consciousness within that broader consciousness. In the same way that you have an ability to focus an astral amount of astral material within that sea of astral matter. So when you think of the 7 planes, don't think of them as stuff, think of them as a whole array of countless little lives, from the most tiniest life that you would hardly recognize as a life, billions and billions and billions of them, to angelic beings whose consciousness spreads right through the astral or oversees the mental plane. And we're talking now about the great archetypal angels, aren't we?
Eric, I'm sorry. Can I just go back to that question you
Absolutely.
posed us? Where is it? Where are these?
Here.
Someone said aurora or this or that.
Here.
Yeah.
Here.
But it is us, isn't it?
Yes.
We are it.
You're swimming in it.
That's right. That's okay.
If you were thrown into water, and you were under the surface, you'd be in the water, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, in that same way, you're in all that. It's not somewhere else.
That's a good
It goes right through you, it goes through every cell, it goes through every atom, it goes through your mind, it goes through your thoughts, it goes through your skin, it goes through your eyeballs, it goes through your feelings, it goes through all the energies and movements. You can't get away from it. It is what you are. And the thing about, evolution proceeds from the simple to the complex. So we go back eons and eons and eons of cycles to when the spiritual spark that is in you, or the one that's in me, was actually the spark in an atom. Which had its called, I had my consciousness then. It was very, very, very rudimentary. What it was I was aware, in my own little way, I was able to be what I was. I didn't want to be anything else. I was happy in my atom state. But I didn't even know what happiness was. But this is the thing about nature, it just gets on with it, doesn't it? So when you get to these living, these moving, thinking beings, like human beings and some higher animals, that you start getting fussy. You say, well, I don't like this condition, I don't like that condition, but you don't find the rest of nature doing that. He just gets on with it, he grows. So yes, it's everywhere here. From that point of view, looking at the planes from another angle now, you can say that although we sort of tend to, as human beings, we tend to revere things. We want to worship things, we want to adore and idolize things, don't we? So we say, the spiritual plane, in hushed tones, the spiritual plane. The spiritual plane is here. The thing about the spiritual plane is, it's only one of many. Now, if you think about it, the physical plane is the only plane that contains all those others, including the spiritual plane.
Ah.
They're all here. But if you're on the astral plane, you've got all those minus the physical and the etheric. So you're missing two. If you're on the spiritual plane, back in your spiritual home, then you don't have any of this. You don't have access to any of this experience, any of this community, this going out and coming back, this tides of life. And that's why you would ask yourself, why would spirit want to incarnate into a place like this when he lives in a divine, glorious, wonderful heaven? Because, well, I wouldn't dare say it's boring, but this is where it's all happening. But relatively it's boring because we're not fully evolved. Therefore, our awareness of creation is limited. When we come here, it's limited, but at least we can experience it and grow.
Yes.
That's why we do it.
Do you think it's a choice pre-birth, without trying to deviate?
Yes.
Or is that yeah?
Do you think?
Yes,
Do you think what?
I do.
Do you think it's a choice pre-birth, you know, to experience?
We choose
Oh, absolutely.
It's
It's the absolute purpose of existence is to experience.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Now, what all this amounts to is that it's all about something that can be summed up in one word. It's all about consciousness. The whole of creation is about developing consciousness. Man, which is the peak of the evolutionary wave going through this system at the moment, is the only being in this system, this entire system that we're part of, the only being that is capable of being conscious on all 7 levels. Your angels at their higher astral level, they can't be conscious here.
So what would again, forgive me for trying to maybe sound a wee bit vague, but what do you feel the purpose of consciousness is then? Is again, that's quite a...
No, it's a good question. It's a simple one really for Theosophy.
Yeah.
The purpose of consciousness is to develop the latent potentials within it. If you consider yourself to be a spark...
And is that an endless goal?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. But relatively speaking, we see the close of a cycle.
Yes.
Well, then there's another cycle will come following that. But you can put the whole thing in perspective, evolution, in terms of the divine flame, which is the one reality, the one, some call it God, some call it the absolute whatever. We are sparks thrown out from that flame.
Oh, so
And though we are the same as that flame, we're very weak.
Okay.
But we burn fuel to become flames in our own right. That fuel is experience. That flame that grows is consciousness, is intelligence, consciousness. Because in each of the sparks, it's all the latent power of the flame itself.
The gods in the making.
Wow.
When you think of a flame,
Yeah.
if you get a spark from a flame, say a bonfire, and it actually captures some material, it becomes a flame itself. And that flame is exactly the same as the flame that threw it out. Another statement people come out with, which is quite graphic, is that you can take a candle, light it. From that one candle, you can light an endless number of other candles without the flame being diminished in any way.
Gee whiz.
Right? So that's the purpose of consciousness, of creation, is to produce gods, if you like, from little sparks of awareness. Our future as human beings is awesome. Our future is to become gods. But we're only halfway to even the first part of that process. We look at the masters, people who provided us with the Kabbalah, and all these other esoteric systems. We look at these advanced humanity, and some who come from another place, avatars, and you're looking at yourself in the future, because they were where we are now, not so very long ago. And
they're moving on.
And they're moving on, we're moving. It's all a ladder of life.
Jeez, why did it take me so long to get you to these things?
You will find in your notes, referring now to people, the students doing the course, you'll find in notes a reference to layer centres, where it says the planes overlap. This is again looking at them from a layer cake point of view. They're saying there are areas where there's sort of mix up of two.
I haven't had the notes, you know, since the last lot. I said to John, I hadn't had.
No email from Monica.
Well, have you contacted Monica to tell her?
No. Okay.
There's something coming out.
No, that's the 7 life waves coming out now.
Is it?
Have you got yours?
Yes,
Christian?
I did, but the reason I got them was I was having difficulty and she sent them to me. She also said you'll get the same thing on the email, but it wasn't there.
Have you changed your email address?
No.
No. Okay, I mean, when you're sending out multiple addresses like that, very often some people slip by the way, so you really contact me. I can't remember to do it for you. Just email Monica and tell her what was the last one you got, and can she bring you up to date, yeah? Okay, well, then there's only really Greta and Ruth. You had this.
I'm not doing it.
Oh, you're not doing the course. Well, there's only really Greta then that's seen the layer centre.
Yeah, and that was that was a good way of explaining to me how things aren't separate.
Yeah.
They are
merge,
merged, and
layer centres tend to be the sort of interface between one state and another. I won't say one plane and another because I would put them back into a layer cake, and we've got past that, I think, today. To one state and another. In older fashioned parlance, there's a term called ring pass not.
And what was that, sorry? Ring
pass not. That means in every area of evolution or life, there are boundaries which you can't cross until you change.
Yes, yeah. That's
so easiest way to see that is to see a caterpillar in the chrysalis, and then when it turns into a butterfly, the chrysalis is its ring pass not. In order for that caterpillar to get out of that chrysalis, it has to change into a butterfly.
Yeah.
In order for human beings to pass through the ring pass not of our present day existence, we have to pass through the boundary between lower mind and higher mind.
Yeah.
Our ring pass not, our main layer centre lies between the lower mind and higher mind.
Well, Eric, the causal body, is that just...
That's at that juncture, yeah.
The what, sorry?
Causal body.
Causal body.
Now the causal body is an enigmatic sort of thing. You know you've got an etheric body, an astral body, mental body, but what the hell is this causal body? Well, again, it's an old term and it's used to depict something that develops over the development of a human being when it, as he and she leaves the primitive state, becomes more civilized and expands mind until they're starting to use higher mind, which is the creative side of your mind, where imagination lies, abstract thoughts are, inspiration comes from. In tapping that area of mind, you are building a bridge between the part of your mind that's turned towards the senses and emotions and what you want and what you need and what you remember and all that, and the part of your mind that is actually part of the spiritual self, which is looking the other way. So because your mind is divided like that, there's this bridge needed between the two. By pushing into higher mind, you're actually forming that bridge, because it's a bit like whenever anything is done and repeated, it becomes easier to repeat. Whether it's an action, a habit, or a pathway, say in undergrowth, whatever. So the pathway between lower and higher mind is the same difference. Each time you go there, you open yourself up into higher mind, you make that more easy the next time. And so that passageway, so-called, it's only metaphorical, is called the Rainbow Bridge, or the Antakarana. But in other terms, it's called the causal body, because you're forming an area between those between those two aspects of mind, which eventually, with enough practice and enough growth, your soul can actually becomes the seat of your soul. At the
I
moment,
liken that.
Just hang on a minute, can I get an important point? At the moment, the seat of the soul in average human beings is in low mind, what we call the personality.
Why is that?
Because it's to do with survival.
Right, okay.
But as we get out of survival and personal needs into more altruistic spiritual ideas and more artistic ideas, then we're moving into this other area of mind. So the soul gradually shifts up a phase and tends to sit between the two minds then. This is only metaphorical, I'm not...
Yeah, I
being-
know, nothing can be stood on.
You see, I liken that, like you say it's metaphorical, but if you think of the cerebellum, which marries left and
There are
right
physical
brain,
counterparts.
then there is a definite bridge there, isn't there?
And there's the pineal gland.
Yeah, and then but, you know, like marrying like the
Left and
reptilian
right.
side, but the left brain and right brain, and having that balance, opening that pathway spiritually and with compassion, with also logic and things. You know, I think that's maybe what humans have forgotten.
No, they haven't forgotten it, they're just learning it.
Is that what you think? Because well, you'll know a lot more than me, definitely. But like again, this is about my education, I suppose, and this is what I was on about downstairs, about learning off people like yourselves. I always assumed, you know, never assumed, but that, you know, the people before us, like the people that invented or developed the Kabbalah from however they did, or the Druids and these really, or the Dogon tribes, these really advanced peoples.
I know what you're saying.
I believe that that they were accessing consciousness at a huge level. I don't know whether I'm right, Eric, and it's something that was just fizzled out or dampened. Is that wrong? Yeah.
They're just ahead of
It
us.
has, it has.
Right. Okay.
They got there in the
Yeah.
past because they were that far advanced.
Okay.
And we're getting there now.
Oh,
Yeah.
brill.
And
Okay.
what you see in the New Age now around you, in the Western world, is this surge of humanity, although it's not as big as it should be or could be, but there's a great deal of humanity now pushing into that same point.
Right. Okay.
Where
yeah.
you say the Kabbalah came from, the Druids and all the rest of it. Because it's moving the soul into that higher seat where it can access both worlds. And
Wow.
you see this, as above and so below,
Yeah.
the left and the right hemispheres mirror the same thing.
Okay.
Now, you know, in terms of consciousness, you get people who are living in higher mind and they can't put their feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And in the past they were stuck in asylums and places because they couldn't make sense to people. And then on the opposite side, you get people who are so concrete and logical, you can't accept anything beyond the material. But the mass of humanity is somewhere between. It's mostly concerned with survival and the logical mind, but it enjoys the fruits of the other side of its brain,
Yeah.
because it likes art, it likes music, it likes, you know, nature, and so on.
Yeah.
And so this bringing in higher thinking, higher consciousness, abstract thinking, which is spiritual by nature, is causing the difference between law and mind to blend out, because our focus starts to lie more solidly between the two, and we call that the causal body. Now, at the end of our personality evolution, when we no longer need to be born into the physical world and all this kind of thing, and we reach a level where we can operate consciously as a spiritual being rather than as a personality, it is said then that the causal body breaks its boundaries, and all that is gathered into the spiritual self. So all its past lives, all its experience, everything it's ever done, all becomes part of the spiritual awareness, and that awareness then blossoms into full being.
So
Um,
when the personality dies from this life, the causal body,
yeah.
or whatever it is there.
Yes.
Does the higher mind reap the experience?
Yes. Now, some commentators will say that Devachan is an experience experienced by the causal self, rather than the higher self, rather than the spiritual self. But this is all rhetoric.
Conjecture.
The fact is, we're looking at this in terms of a long evolutionary cycle. What happens between lives is similar, but it's not the final thing, is it? So you get a visit into these places as you go back into your spiritual self, and then come back out again into life again. But in terms of evolution, this grows over many lifetimes, this transition between lower and higher mind.
But eventually it goes permanently
Yeah.
and becomes
Yeah.
permanent.
And then you would say you were a master then.
And you're enlightened.
Yeah. And then
Is that like
enlightenment is-
nirvana in a
Well, no,
sense,
it means
no?
it means you can go into nirvana,
Right.
but because you're such a wonderful being, you won't. You'll stay around and give out Kabbalah,
Yeah.
teach
To help
people,
people.
help people,
Yeah.
start religions, whatever we feel is appropriate at the time. The Buddha is a famous incident. He reached enlightenment, and he was had access then to nirvana, off the wheel of rebirth and everything. But he at the threshold he stopped and he turned around and he said, "I will not go through until every last one of my brothers and sisters has gone through." So that's why he's called the Buddha of compassion, you see. And actually the Theosophical movement is based on the very same idea. It's, I forget the actual word now, but it's,
Nirmakaya.
no, not the word. But anyway, what we believe in is that as we evolve, so we should help other people to advance as well. This is not a selfish path. This is an altruistic path. Therefore, our first object is universal brotherhood, isn't it? And that's the most important thing to us, that we all become, recognised as part of the same family, not separate nations and colours. And
Yeah.
okay, then just a few bits to fill in what's left now. It is a sad fact, but it's changing almost daily, that most of humanity are not aware of the spiritual planes at all. Their awareness only extends as far as lower mind and the odd excursion into some kind of blissful state, listening to music or something, or falling in love. But that is changing as more and more people start to realise that it's a spiritual basis to life. It isn't a material thing. There are material aspects of it, but that's not what it is. That's only one of the things it's wearing. People start to see themselves from a different point of view, from a higher point of view, then they start to become aware of the spiritual planes. If you can't see yourself in those spiritual planes, you can't see those spiritual planes.
You see, this is something that I've always struggled with, you see, because, like I was saying earlier, when I was a young boy, I didn't come from a religious household, and it wasn't very cool to kind of believe in God or to be spiritual in any way, shape or form. Now this is something that has just been within me, right? Whether you call it faith or spirituality. And I could never understand why my friends or my family didn't feel what I felt so strongly.
Can you give me a reason why they should have?
Well, yeah, no, what I'm saying is, I can't give you what I'm saying is, so let's, for argument's sake, I've always had a concept, I'm not saying I'm anything, what I'm saying is I've always had a real, spiritual feeling, and the feeling of the soul, and
You were more aware than your family.
well, I don't know, without trying to again be vague. What I'm saying is, the simplest way I can put it is, I had this overwhelming faith in a spiritual world. Yes. Now, I am unsure why, because it is there, it is definite. Yes, like we've been saying. what makes somebody, like I think you are right actually, Beryl, what makes somebody aware, like I was aware, and is it a wee bit unfair that others weren't? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but we're each of us are in a different, progressing at different levels.
Yeah.
In one
is that
sense,
Yeah.
in one sense, you've got more responsibility if you're aware.
Yes.
You should have made a real good success of your life
Yeah.
because you've
Yeah, but
got
that's another
the
issue, though,
driving
isn't it? The
impulse.
question he's asking, though, is not that question. You're taking him off the question. The question is, why are you born with that spiritual awareness
Mm.
as a child, and the rest of your family are?
Yeah.
That's what you're wondering about, isn't it?
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
And you feel it's almost not fair that they don't see all that.
Yeah, I feel so. Yeah, I feel. Yeah, definitely.
But you see, the point is, you know, this is only one of many lives.
Right. Okay.
So you may be belong to a family, but you're an individual spark of the divine. In order for you to be born with any kind of awareness, you must have developed it in a previous life.
Okay.
How do you think Mozart could write symphonies at the age of 5?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he'd been at it in previous
Yeah.
lives and in the life between.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So,
That answers it.
yeah, but that's not the only answer though.
Yeah, I know.
Because with karma, you've heard of karma.
Yes.
It may, with some people, it may be relevant for them to be born, even though they've got this great spiritual feeling, to be born in a family that puts it down.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, which is like
because maybe they didn't appreciate it when they had it last time. Maybe they were in a family that was encouraging them to be spiritual, and they refused it.
Yeah, because I associate it with there's a lot of like fear, isn't there?
Oh, there's
like,
yes.
you know, like I found out with family and friends, or fear of ridicule, or fear of like.
It's the herd instinct, you see.
Yeah,
It's
the
a herd
herd
mentality,
instinct,
yeah.
yeah.
If you're not part of the herd, you don't make the same murmurings as the rest of the herd, then you're weird, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. But nowadays, you see, it's not so easy to be weird anymore. Because everybody's weird now. But at one time, if you didn't dress the right way, you were weird. Now,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as a dress code. In fact, if you don't dress weirdly now, you know, then you're weird. But things are changing, aren't they? you see?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's good. So, what have I got left now, really? I think I've more or less covered everything in my notes here, which is a good thing. Yeah, I have. Just going back briefly on a couple of ideas, because I've got some further notes on them. The idea that the planes are made up of countless lives and they're not just inanimate things. There's a statement that ideas only become substance and develop because some forms of life can and do work with them. And this is what I was saying before. When you have an idea, or you want something, or you do something, it's only achieved because of all the countless lives that make up what we call life, and all these other planes actually respond to that. On your own, you can do nothing. This is an important point. On your own, as an individual spark, you can achieve nothing.
Wow, yeah.
Without the cooperation and the experience and the interaction with other sparks, at whatever level and all levels, you can't change, you can't move on, you can't understand anything, you can't express anything.
Yeah.
So we have to be aware that our own development and our existence is codependent on everything else. And this is where the first object springs from.
And that's a nice thought. Huh?
It's not just a universal brotherhood of man, it's a universal brotherhood of all lives, isn't it? The sooner we realise we're part of a whole life thing, and not just little me's and little you's, the sooner we'll stop warring and famines and ignorance and all the rest of it, disease. All disease comes from all this as well, you see. It comes from the fact that people don't have a proper view of themselves and of life. They're at war within themselves.
Yeah,
And the system, the political and governmental and national systems don't encourage people to be equal and to have fair opportunities, do they?
No.
So some people are living on subsistence, and other people are wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. Food prices are kept high by throwing food away. There's enough food in the world to make every single man, woman and child obese. And yet we've got starvation all over the world.
Yeah.
That's because the people who produce the world are so greedy, they don't want to give it away or make it accessible to everybody. Even the drug companies who make billions won't give vaccines to the third world. Someone has to pay for them.
Out of date ones and everything.
This is because we see ourselves as separate, and we see ourselves as wanting to climb up the pile and never mind everybody else. Spirituality is the other way around. It's about elevating everybody else with yourself. It's about waking up to the fact that we are all one life.
Yeah. It's like
what I do
£20
to
note,
you,
yeah.
I do to everybody. What I do to myself, I do to everybody. If I put you down, I put myself down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that's
thoughts
right,
are powerful as well.
And thoughts are so powerful. Yeah.
And bad thoughts
Yeah.
create wars.
And that's a
Yeah.
point, perhaps to finish on, really, the fact that because of the way the movement of life works, is that everything that's generated on the spiritual planes seeks to manifest itself further down the chain, eventually on the physical world. That includes you. So you and I, when we're thinking things, our thoughts are taken up by beings on the mental plane, made into thought forms. They're clothed by emotional beings in the astral plane. Energy is attached to them at the etheric level, and eventually they become physical things.
Wow.
That's the mechanism. And this is why thoughts are so powerful.
Yeah.
You can act on the physical plane, but it's so temporary. You know, if I was to try and change your mind, I might succeed, but that's only one mind.
Yeah.
If I put out a philosophy that is picked up by people and it spreads, that's far more powerful than walking around with a sword trying to make people comply or
Absolutely.
throwing bombs at them, isn't it? You win the hearts and minds of people, you win completely.
Well, it's like I always feel with a £20 note. We've got Adam Smith, who obviously was a capitalist, and his method, wasn't it, do what's best for yourself, stuff everyone else.
Yeah.
And then you had Jordan Forbes Nash, who was, no, don't do what's best for yourself. Do what's best for yourself and others. Now, why isn't he on the £20 note instead of Adam Smith, you know?
Because of what the £20 note represents, really, isn't it?
Yes,
It represents
absolutely.
them.
Yeah.
So, I think that more or less concludes what we were going to say on the planes, the 7 planes. Thank you very much. The next subject is the 7 life waves. No, sorry, the 7 kingdoms of nature.
Yes.
When is
Well,
that?
that's the 25th of August.
Yeah.
25th of August.
We've got a break now till 25th of
Thank you,
August.
I just feel I'd like to say thank you so much. Like, this is the first time I've been and
You're
met
welcome.
everybody, and I just